Good afternoon, Piscataway, and welcome to the 7th weekly live stream chat with the 2020 Dems on Your Side candidates, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Bill Irwin, and I'm running for mayor in this year's Democratic primary, and I'm joined by Council at Large candidates Tillman, Ralph Johnson, and Laura Leibowitz. We are the Dems on Your Side in column A, and hopefully the technology will cooperate for the rest of the broadcast. Been a few technical difficulties in the background earlier, and don't even get me started with Optimum this week. But hopefully all will go well. But I do want to take a moment today and say up front that though we are here continuing the struggle for honest and open and transparent government here in Piscataway, our hearts are heavy. Our hearts are heavy, and they're with George Floyd. May he rest in power, and his family and his friends. Our hearts are with our brothers and sisters up in North today, demonstrating for justice with Larry Hamm and the People's Organization for Progress, and Mayor Ras Baraka. Our hearts are with all who are saddened and outraged and speaking out and demonstrating because this must end. We cannot continue to have a system and a society where Black folks are not afforded the same rights, the same due process, and the same justice as white people. We cannot continue to see Black people murdered with impunity by police officers who are supposed to be protecting and serving the people. Because that's right, the job of the police is to protect and serve the people. And I know that many, if not most, take that oath very seriously. I know that Ralph Johnson does. But when you have officers who are brutalizing and murdering people, and when you have a system that responds very differently to Black people and white people, I mean, look at the difference in response between white people storming state capitals with AR-15 and Black people protesting the murder in broad daylight of an unarmed man. And it becomes impossible to deny that justice is not equal. And that must change. And that is one among many reasons that we must defeat Donald Trump this November. Now, I'm not saying that defeating Trump will solve the problem of racial injustice in this country. It won't. It won't. There's a 400-year legacy of institutionalized racism that this country must come to terms with and rectify. And that is a process that is going to take a long time. But it is not a process that can even begin under fascism. It is not a process that can even begin when hate and division is sown and increased on a daily basis from the highest reaches of our government. It is not a process that can even begin when authoritarianism reigns and the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition their government for redress of grievances is taken away. And that is exactly where we are headed with Donald Trump. Fascism must be stopped before we can move forward with democracy. So our hearts are heavy today, but we push on, and we will overcome. But I would ask everyone to just take a moment of silence, bow our heads in prayer, and think of George Floyd today and all the others who have suffered the same fate. And think about what must be done. Thank you.
So that was really good. That I'm a singer, so I just want to add a little something before we go, if you guys don't mind. Just want to share a little bit of hope and encouragement and that brought us over through many trials and tribulations. And it simply just says, "We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Thank you, Bill.
Nikki, that was amazing. Being in law enforcement is such a difficult process. And when you see injustice, you have to speak on it. And raising Black boys is a very difficult process. Because at some point in time, I know I have to have the conversation. And that conversation is that you're going to be treated differently than others. And the moment I have that conversation, my child is no longer a child. I now take them from being innocent to being an adult dealing with things they have no knowledge of. And we keep saying it. We're tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired. Eventually, people have to come together and realize that we are the same. We bleed the same. And Piscataway really does a great job in doing so. And that's one of the reasons I moved to this town, because it's very diverse, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different religions. And we all come together to ask the question, why? And acknowledge that you exist. So this slate of candidates, I thank you for being here, because we're all brought here because of our spirituality. We're not career politicians and never claimed to be that. But again, our hearts go out. I hope there is justice, and I hope we'll come together.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ralph. Of course, I echo each one of the statements that you guys have made. I truly am so proud to live in Piscataway, to teach so many children and reach out to families. And I acknowledge the white privilege that I have, and I try and address that, and let my son and my children know that that is something that is a part of who we are. And so they can go forth into the world with that knowledge, into their relationships with people. That being said, it's funny, I have raised my son in Piscataway since I moved here. I was 8.5 months pregnant, and he's lived here his whole life. And every year I exchange a class picture with my sister-in-law, my nephews, who live way up in Sussex County. And it is so funny every year. I say my nephew's pictures look like Children of the Corn. For the millennials who understand that reference, there is a movie of these super blonde kids. And of course, my son's class pictures, which have always been just a snapshot of Piscataway and the beauty and the diversity that we have and that our children and our families have. And I know when our children go out from Piscataway High School and they go out into the community and to the broader world, to their universities, they are prepared, not only because of the education that we provide, but because of the culture and the neighborhoods and the communities that we raise them in. They are truly prepared citizens of the world because of who they've ridden on their school buses with, who they've played with on their teams, who they've sat and studied and prayed with in their communities and their houses of worship. And that is truly a great gift that we give them by raising them here in this town.